Hello all, welcome you to the next session on electronic devices. So in the previous class we had started with module 2 about PN junctions, and we understood very few basics which was necessary to understand the very first topic in module 2. Yeah, so there is another topic that you have to understand before going into module 2 first topic, so which is about Fermi level. Let me just explain that what is Fermi level and how do you represent that Fermi level for an intrinsic semiconductor and for a p-type material and an n-type material, and then we'll go into the first topic in second module. Okay. So, if in case I consider, let me just represent the lower end of the conduction band energy, what will I refer this as EC, and the upper end of the valence band energy, which I'll represent it as EV. Now, when I refer for an intrinsic material, what does this Fermi level indicates is, what is that I'm trying to refer? It is Fermi level. This is an energy level which gives or which tells about the 50% probability of having an electron at any given point of time. So what does this Fermi level indicates? It is an energy level which relates to the electron presence, and it defines what is the probability of 50% probability of the electron being present at any given point of time. So that Fermi energy level is somewhere halfway between the EC and EV if in case I consider for intrinsic material, which indicates that if in case I consider an intrinsic material, then the probability of finding an electron at this level, every time if I check, at any point of time if I check, I'll be able to get an electron, I'll be able to see an electron at this energy level, and that's why we refer the Fermi level to be exactly at the midway between the EC and EV for intrinsic material. Done. If in case I consider for an n-type material, how will I represent that? So let me consider EC, EV. What is the kind of material I am considering here? Let me take up an n-type material. If I take up an n-type material, what does this Fermi level basically indicates? It is the probability of finding an electron at any given point of time. So as we know, the electrons, if in case I consider the n-type material, where can we find the free electrons at maximum probability? It is near the conduction band. Why? Because we know we'll perform doping, and that extra energy level which is being added up, it is near to the EC, which in turn indicates the probability of finding an electron is closer to that of the EC level rather than that of EV. Therefore, the Fermi energy level is closer to the EC level in case of an n-type material. Why? Because the free charge carriers are more in case of conduction band. If in case I consider a p-type material, then what will happen? This is again an EC, this is EV. What is that I have to refer here? It is a probability of finding an electron, right? 50% probability of finding an electron at any given point of time. So that means this has to be close to that of the EV level, and let me represent this as EF. So always remember, the Fermi level for an intrinsic material is midway between EC to EV, whereas for an n-type it is near to EC, whereas for a p-type it is near to EV, that is near to the valence band. Here it is near to the conduction band. And these are the points that you have to remember before going into the first topic. Now let's go into the first topic, which speaks about the qualitative description of how the current flows in PN junction. So what does 2.1 indicates? It is so the 2.1 is about So what does 2.1 speaks about? It is the qualitative description of how the current flows when I consider a PN junction. Then let me just represent the diagrams which we considered in the previous class when I am not providing any potential across the PN junction, when I am not providing any supply across the PN junction. Okay, so how will I represent the diagram? See, now what is the first case I am considering? Let me consider at equilibrium condition where I am not providing any supply. Therefore, what is my supply is equal to? It is equal to 0. So, let me just represent the PN junction. So, this is my P material, whereas this is my N material. There is an built-in electrostatic potential barrier that exists. And have I connected it to any supply? No, therefore I'll just leave it as it is. Yeah, and then what is this referred as? It is the width which is represented by W. Now what is this region called as? It is called as depletion region, or I can say it as space transition region, or I can also refer it as space charge region. What are the three different names? Either I can say it as depletion region or transition region or space charge region. Now, when I consider at equilibrium condition, we have previously represented the electrostatic potential barrier. How do we represent the electrostatic potential barrier? See, this is where I have represented my Vp. We considered one charge coulomb which tries to move, wander around and then reach the end type. Remember? So this is where the potential at the neutral P type, and as it goes under the influence of this electric field which is generated. How is the electric field being generated? This is in this direction, and these are the unionized, uncompensated donor and acceptor ions. So what are these? These are uncompensated donor and acceptor ions, and this is how the resultant electric field that is present in the transition region. Now, if in case this 1 coulomb charge, when it comes under the influence of the electric field, what is happening to the potential energy? It increases. What happens to the kinetic energy? It reduces, and that increase is what I am trying to show now, and this is my Vn. Now, by what value you will show that increase? We know the electrostatic potential barrier that exists is represented by a value which is called as V0. And all these things we have covered in the previous class. Now, let me further continue and represent the energy diagram now. See, remember one thing, when we consider the Fermi level, always remember the Fermi level is constant throughout the x direction at equilibrium condition. That means I cannot have different Fermi levels at equilibrium condition. Both my P and N type should have the same Fermi level. Therefore, I got to know that whatever the Fermi level that I have to represent should be of a single line. Right? And what will I represent this as? EF. If in case I consider near the P region, let me represent this as EFP. If in case I consider the Fermi level near the N region, let me represent it as EFN. Now, we know that for an N-type material, the Fermi level is closer to which energy level? It is the conduction band energy level. Therefore, I need to represent the conduction energy band energy level, which is EC for an N-type material. If in case I consider for a P-type material, then the Fermi level is closer to which energy level? It is the valence energy level, and this is what we refer as EVP. I hope you're getting this point. So this Fermi level is closer to valence energy level for a p-type material, whereas the Fermi level is closer to the conduction band energy level in case of n-type material, and that's what have been followed, which we discussed in the previous case. Now, what about the ECP? It will be somewhere here. What about EVP? It will be somewhere here. Done? Now, how will I show this energy band separation? This is shown by a slope. Will not go into the details how this is basically shown. That is not there in the syllabus. So, you just remember that this is shown basically by a slope which connects these two energy levels of near the conduction band and which connects the valence energy levels like this. Done. Always remember the spacing should be uniform. Yeah. Now, what is the amount of energy? See, if in case I consider the n-type material where there's the free electrons are being present, this is where the free electrons are being present. Now, see, when I say the electrons are getting diffused, see, the electrons here is trying to occupy this energy level, that is at ECP, which is nothing but the electrons here which gets diffused into the p-type material. You just remember those points and relate to this. So, the electrons which is here tries to overcome this potential barrier and then occupy this energy state. Now, how much barrier it has to, how much energy it has to possess so that it can overcome this and then occupy the ECP. And that value can be nothing but it is the electron charge times the electrostatic potential barrier. So, how much is this value? It is the electron charge times the electrostatic potential barrier. So, this much amount of energy is required. Q V naught joules of energy is required for the electrons which is present here to overcome this barrier and then move into this particular energy band or into this energy state. I hope all of you are clear with this. So, this is regarding the equilibrium condition. And now let me represent the tabular column which we considered in the previous class, which is particle flow, and the second factor is the current. Now, whatever I will be representing another two cases as well. After equilibrium, I will be considering another two cases as well. So, for all the cases, these four whatever components we have, that will be common. We will be discussing that in common. So, what are the components that we have to discuss? One is hole diffusion, and then hole drift. Then comes electron diffusion and electron drift. When I consider hole, how is the hole getting diffused? We have discussed in the previous class. The holes are in higher concentration at p-type, whereas lower in concentration at n-type. Therefore, it gets diffused in this direction. So, let me just represent it quickly. The hole gets diffused this way. The current also flows in the same direction. The electron gets diffused in the opposite direction, but the current that flows remember, we have represented for electron related in the dotted lines. Let me follow the same methodology. So, coming to the current, it's in the same direction. It's the cumulative current which relates to the diffusion. Now comes the drift. How does drift happens? The minority carriers in the n, which is holes, get swept towards the n-type material due to the electric field that is present. Now, how does this happens? It is in from n to that of p. Let me just represent that direction. And the current flows in the same direction. When I consider the electron drifting, it happens in the opposite direction. Let me represent it a little different, the arrow. And then coming to the current direction, it is same as that of the hole drifting that happens. Now, So this was all we considered in the previous class, right? Now let me consider the next case. What is the second case is that, so this is under the equilibrium condition. Now the second case that I am considering is what we refer as forward biased condition. What is the meaning of forward biased condition is, so we have P and N type which forms a junction, done. And then if the P type side is connected to the positive terminal of the battery and if the N type material is connected to the negative terminal of the battery, then we say it to be, this PN junction is said to be under forward biased. Now what is the potential that I am providing here? Let me represent that potential to be as Vf, and therefore how much is the potential that I am providing? V is equal to Vf. This is the amount of potential that I am providing. Done? Now let me not represent the electrostatic potential barrier that exists. We'll look into that factors a little while because you need to understand the concept. See, when I consider the P type and N type material, coming to the doping, the first point that you need to remember is about the doping. So these two regions are either moderately doped or they are heavily doped. They are not lightly doped. Please get this point clear. So they are either moderately doped or they are heavily doped. Now the second point that you need to remember is, these regions I mentioned in the previous class are all called as the neutral regions. Hence the potential which is observed across them are neutral. Getting my point? So because of this, what happens is, whatever the potential that I am providing across the PN junction, all the complete potential is appearing across the electrostatic potential or the transition region. Now why that happens? Because the N and P type are moderately or heavily doped, what is the amount of voltage drop that happens in this P and N type region? It is minimal because the resistance offered is less. As a result, whatever the potential that I will be applying, either it is forward bias or reverse bias, how much ever potential I apply here, the complete potential is observed across the transition region. I hope all of you got these points. Now, once you have understood this, now let's see what happens to the electrostatic potential, which was in case of equilibrium like this, what happens to that in case of a forward bias condition. Now, what is happening to the P-type material? It is at the higher potential. The electrostatic potential at the P side is at the higher end relative to that of the N side. All of you agree with me? Now, by what factor it is at the higher end? It is by a factor Vf. Therefore, can I represent my Vp at the same level? No. So, it is at the higher potential. Therefore, I cannot follow the same level, or I cannot represent my Vp in the same level in case of forward bias. It has to be shifted in the upward direction. So, let me just represent that. So, let me just shift it a little while. Done. And then and this is how I will be showing the potential. What does this potential indicates? It is Vp. What does this indicates? It is Vn. Now, what happens to the barrier, the potential, electrostatic potential barrier that is present here? Is it same as that of V0? No, it is reduced in this case. By what factor it is reduced? It is reduced by a factor which is Vf, and therefore, let me represent that reduction factor as V0 minus Vf. Got the point? Clear till here? So this is regarding what is called as electrostatic potential barrier, which changes, which is no longer the same in case of forward biased condition. Now, let me try to consider other few aspects as well. So we understood what happens to the electrostatic potential barrier. Let me just note down what are the factors that you have to discuss. See, when I consider these aspects, now, when I consider the three different cases, we have to look into all these factors. So, what happens to the electrostatic potential barrier when I am considering a forward bias condition? What happens to the electric field intensity, the transition width and so on? So, what happened to the electrostatic potential barrier? Is it same as that of this case? No. It is reduced by what factor? V0 minus Vf. It is reduced by a factor which is Vf. Done. Now, let us look into what happens to the electric field. Got the point? Now, see here, because of this supply that I am providing, there is an electric field that exists, and also because of this uncompensated donor and acceptor ions that is present here. Done. Now, there is an electric field that is being generated here as well. Done. Now, how are these two electric field directions? They are opposite in nature, which indicates that the applied electric field is opposite to that of the nature of the electric field which is built in the transition region. As a result, the resultant electric field in the built-in potential reduces. It is no longer same as that of the equilibrium condition. So what happens to the electric field? Built-in electric field, it gets reduced because it is opposing into that of the nature of the applied electric field. Done. Now, since it is opposing in nature, it has something to do with the width of the transition region that exists. So, since the electric field, built-in electric field is reduced, can the width be same? No, the transition width also gets reduced. Therefore, whatever the W that I am representing here have to be small in size, have to be smaller in size when compared to that of the W width when I considered for equilibrium condition. So, what I will do here is, for your simplicity, I'll just, for your understanding, what will I do? I'll try to represent two of the compensated donor and acceptor ions at each side. Done? Now, here how many I'll represent? I'll just represent a single uncompensated donor and acceptor ions. Done. Now, this is the built-in electric field. Done. So, what happens to the electric field? The built-in electric field in the transition region gets reduced because it is opposing in nature to that of the applied electric field. As a result, what happens to the transition width that is absorbed in the forward bias condition? It gets reduced. Got this point? Now let's see what happens to the separation of the energy bands. Here the separation of the energy bands was Q into V0 times. What happens in case of the forward bias condition? Now, will that separation remain the same? It will not remain the same. Here what will happen is, the Fermi level of the N type is above the Fermi level of the P type because of the forward bias condition. So let me just write it. So what is happening here? The Fermi level of the P type, I will represent it in the same level which I have represented, whereas the Fermi level of the n-type is shifted in the upward. And what is the difference between these two? It is Q times of Vf. Done. So that much amount of joules of energy, it is higher in case of the n-type material. Now, what happens to the energy band diagram? See, whatever this energy separation, will that remains the same? The potential energy difference, that it remains the same? No. The separation of the energy band now in case of the forward bias becomes Q into V naught minus Vf, which is now being represented in the diagram as follows. So this is how I will be representing the energy band separation. So what is this level? It is nothing but your ECP, this is your ECN, this is your EFN, then EFP, EVP and then ECP. Remember, in case of forward bias, the Fermi level at the n-type is shifted upwards when compared to that of the Fermi level at the p-type by what value? Q times of Vf. Done. And what is this? Separation between the energy bands is done by how much of energy is required for the electrons to move from this energy level to this energy level. It should possess Q into V naught minus Vf amount of energy, that much amount of joules of energy to ensure that the electrons from here move to this level. That is, a little amount of energy is required for the electrons to move from this particular conduction band in the n region to that of the p region. Done. That means the conduction is easy here. Yeah, the diffusion which is happening is very easy here because the potential barrier is reduced. No. As a result, it can easily go and occupy this energy state. Clear with this point? Now, the next thing that you need to understand is about the diffusion current. So as I mentioned, what happens to the potential? It reduces. What happens to the energy separation? It also reduces. In turn, will indicate that the electrons which is present at the conduction band will now easily move or gets diffused into the p-type region. Or the other way around, I can also say that since the built-in electric field intensity is less, the transition width is less, the electrons which is present in the n-type, which are majority carriers, can now get easily diffused into the p-type material. Hence, the diffusion current that is observed in the forward bias condition is more when compared to that of the equilibrium condition. Now let me just represent that in the tabulation now. So what are the factors that I have to consider? Particle flow and then currents. Now let me just represent the diffusion factors. Drift I'll consider once I'm done with the third case as well. Yeah. So whole diffusion, if I want to represent, can I show the same arrow direction? So can I say use the same size of the arrow direction? No, because the diffusion here is happening at the faster rate when compared to that of the equilibrium condition. Therefore, the length of the arrow that I'll consider should be widened. It should be widened when compared to that of these two cases. Done? Now, if in case I consider electron diffusion, it goes the same. So, how will I represent it? Even that has to be widened. And that's how I am representing. Ensure that the size of these two are same and it is widened when compared to that of these two cases. Let me consider the drift factor a little while later. Done? Now, this is regarding the forward bias condition. Now, what is the next condition that is possible? It is reverse bias condition. Now, how will I consider for a reverse bias condition? Here the potentials have to be reversed. That means the p-type should be connected to the negative terminal of the battery and the n-type to be connected to the positive terminal of the battery. What is the potential that I am giving? It's a negative value with respect to the p-type. Therefore, I am representing it as minus VR. And let me represent the PN junction diagram. Now where should be my p-type connected to? The negative terminal of the battery, and N should be connected to the positive terminal of the battery. Done. Now let's try to see what happens to all these factors. The first foremost factor is electrostatic potential barrier. Now what is happening here? The P is negative, or there is a reduction in the potential, electrostatic potential at P relative to that of N. Therefore, the Vp level which I showed in the equilibrium, it no longer stays in the same way, it goes below that. Therefore, how will I represent that? The Vp should be lower. Therefore, what happens to the barrier that exists? How much is the electrostatic potential barrier it has to overcome? It is nothing but Q into V naught plus VR times, because an additional potential is getting added. How much is that potential? It is nothing but your VR amount of potential is getting added. So sorry, this is Q it's not Q because it is just the potential, electrostatic potential that I am referring to. Therefore, how much potential difference that exists? So it is V naught plus VR amount of potential difference, electrostatic potential difference that exists between the Vp and the Vn. And what are these two levels? This is Vp and this is Vn. Done. Therefore, all you can see, the electrostatic potential barrier is now more. In case of forward bias, it is less. In case of reverse bias, it is more. Now, what is the next thing? The electric field. Now, let me see the directions of the electric field. See, here is the uncompensated donor and the acceptor ions that is being generated. For your reference, let me represent the electric field direction. What about the electric field direction here? Even that is in the same direction. Now, both of these electric field directions are in the same way. Hence, is there any opposing factor? No, it gets adding up, right? So as a result, what is happening? The electric field intensity is more here compared to that of the forward bias condition. Now when this is more, what happens to the transition width? It is wider when compared to that of the equilibrium condition and the forward bias condition. Therefore, how will I represent that? Here how many I'll consider? 3 of them I'll consider so that you'll clearly get to know the difference. Done. Now, once you are done with the transition width, now what is the next thing that you have to understand? It is the separation of the energy bands. How the energy band gets separated, by what value? Here, in case of reverse bias, what happens is, it is just the reverse of the forward bias. That is, now the EFP is above that of EFN by a factor Q into VR. Done? Therefore, how will I represent that? Let me just use the same level as that of EFP. It's the same. Whereas, what happens to the EFN? It has to be reduced. It should be below that of EFP. And what is the difference between these two? It is Q times of VR. Done? Now, if I want to complete the energy diagram and the separation between them, it goes as follows. See, the shape in which, or the size in which you write, it should be wider when compared to that of this. Yeah. And what are these levels? So this is nothing but your ECP, this is your EFP, EVP, and this is your ECN, EFN and EVN. Done? Now, by how much you have to overcome this? By what value you have to overcome in order to make the electrons to move from here to here? It is the electron charge times the electrostatic potential barrier. How much is the electrostatic potential barrier? It is V naught plus VR, and that's what have been represented there. Done? Now, once we are done with this, now can you tell me, is the diffusion of electrons from this point to this point happens easily? No, it requires lot more energy to ensure that the electrons moves from ECN to that of ECP. Therefore, what happens to the diffusion that happens? Will it be easy? No, the diffusion is very less that is happening, because there is a strong built-in electric field that exists, which in turn opposes the diffusion that happens. As a result, the diffusion rate gets reduced in case of reverse bias, and we can also say that it is almost nullified, a little amount of diffusion that happens, and that is what we'll try to represent in the tabular column now. Yeah. So what does that have to consider? Particle flow, and then comes the current. So how should be the arrow size now? Here it was moderate, here it was wider. In case of reverse bias, the diffusion current is almost nullified. Therefore, I have to show it in a very small size. In case of electron, the same way goes. So ensure that both of them are on the same size. Done? So this was regarding the diffusion of electron and holes and the current, resultant current. I hope all of you are clear till here. Let me just summarize. In case of electrostatic potential barrier, in case of equilibrium it was V naught. In case of forward bias, it was reduced by a factor Vf, whereas in case of reverse bias, it was increased by a factor Vr. If in case I consider an electric field, the electric field here is E, it is represented as such, whereas here it is lesser than that of this, whereas because the applied electric field is opposing in nature with that of the built-in electric field, here both of them are in the same direction, therefore here the electric field intensity is increased. Now what happens to the transition width? It is lessened in the forward bias condition, whereas it is widened in the reverse bias condition. Then comes the separation of the energy bands. Here the separation of the energy bands is little less. The less amount of energy is sufficient for the electrons which is present in ECN to occupy the ECP energy level, whereas that is not the case of reverse bias. It requires lot more energy to overcome this barrier and then move into this energy level. Hence the diffusion is almost nullified, as the electric field intensity is very high, which does not allow the diffusion to happen as smoothly in case of the forward biased. Hence we have represented in the smaller arrow direction. Now what is the next factor that you have to look into is the drift current. Now when you say drift current, we have mentioned it. So how does this drift current basically happen? Whatever the minority charge carrier, that is the hole here, it somehow wanders and comes into this barrier and then gets swept across to the p-type. Similarly, the minority carriers, that is the electrons which is present in the p-type, somehow wanders and comes into this region and gets swept by the n-type because of the electric field that is built in. Done. So that is how the drift current is basically resulted in. Now, will that drift current relates to the intensity of the electric field, or will it relate to the amount of the potential that you are applying? No, it is not. Always remember, the drift current is not defined by the rate at which, it is not defined by how much of the minimal charge carriers here gets swept to the p-type, but instead it says how often this process happens basically. Yeah, so that is what the drift currents that contributes in case of the forward bias and in case of the reverse bias. Let me just explain it with an example. Let me consider that the minority carrier here, that is in the p-type, the minority carrier is electron, and this electron gets swept across to the n-type easily. Right? Now, that does not have anything to do with the electric field intensity it is present. It is all about how many number of minimal charge carriers or the minority charge carriers is available in the p-type that can be swept by the n-type material. Similarly, how many minority carriers, that is the holes, is present in the n-type which can be swept across to p-type. How often this process is happening, and that's what the drift current basically indicates. And I clearly mentioned that this drift current is independent of the potential that you are providing. Therefore, whatever the drift current direction that have to represent has to be same as that of the equilibrium condition. So how was the arrow direction here for the whole drift? Let me consider the same way, and the size also in the same way. Similarly, if in case I consider for electron, it's in the same direction. Done. So the only factor which is varying here is the diffusion current, which was high here, whereas here it is low. Yeah, so that's why the arrow directions or the width of the arrow directions corresponding to the same. So we understood how the electrostatic potential barrier varies in case of forward bias, reverse bias and equilibrium. We also understood about the electric field intensity, the transition width, the separation of the energy bands, what happens to the diffusion current and the drift current. Now, the one factor that you have to understand here is generation current. See this, what does this relates to is, based on how many amount of minority carriers I can generate at this junction, at this particular junction, it can clearly say how often the drifting can happen. Yeah, and that amount of current, whatever it generates because of the EHP pair generations at the junctions. How the EHP pairs are being generated, we have seen that it is when you increase the temperature, the EHP pair generation is happening. If that EHP pair generation is at the junction, then the sweeping of these electrons, that is the minority carriers towards the n-type, can happen easily, right? So that current, whatever it results in, is what we refer as generation current. And how will I represent that generation current? As IGEN. Done. Now we have few more factors to cover in this, that is we have to see about the graph which relates with that of the current that is flowing and the applied voltage, both in case of forward and reverse bias, and also we have to look into the equations that relates to the total current, which is about the diffusion current, and the generation current, which is nothing but the drift current. So all these aspects we'll look into the next section. Thank you one and all. I hope all of you are clear with the topics that we discussed. Thank you.